Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another post-cabinet press briefing. Today is September 4, 2024, and we have a lot to get through this morning. We have a special guest that will be joining us shortly. They're not here yet, so I won't say anything. I know we also have another guest with us that's not usually here, the Honorable Dr. Horace Chang, our Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of National Security, is here with us this morning. As we had announced before, we also have the Honorable Favour Williams, our Minister of Education and Youth, with us this morning to continue giving her updates. Last week we got a lot of updates from her. We had a very good back to school morning on Monday, and the Ministry of Education team has been working so hard to ensure that all our students are back at school, and so she'll give you a lot of updates on all the tremendous work that she and her team have been doing. We also have the Honorable Darrell Vaz with us, the Minister of Science, Energy, Telecoms and Transport, and Mr. 100 CNG buses himself, here with us to talk about many things, primarily in the transport-related area, and also I'm sure he'll touch on energy-related matters too, because he's been our champion in relation to electricity and the concerns of the people of Jamaica. I also have to acknowledge Dr. Kassan Troop, the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Education and Youth. We also have our Acting Chief Education Officer, Terry Ann Thomas Gale, with us, and other members of the Ministry of Education team. I saw the head of our National Education Trust. Welcome. Also, we in the audience with us, we have Ms. Delmers White, who is the Deputy Director General of the ODPEM. We also have Mr. Weatherman himself, Evan Thompson, the Principal Director in the Meteorological Service of Jamaica. There are other members of the Ministry of Education and Youth team and members of the Ministry of Science, Energy, Telecoms and Transport teams here. I have to also acknowledge the wonderful media who come every single week to be with us. And we really do appreciate that, and we always note that this post-cabinet press briefing takes place every Wednesday after a sitting of cabinet. We are very much about openness, and openness to telling the good stories about what this administration is doing. And the media is welcome to ask us every week any questions that they want. And I think this is a really great hallmark of the kind of democracy that this administration has been projecting and will continue to project. So good morning again to everyone, all of you who are watching at home and abroad. And I will start, as usual, with just a few updates for you. The Managing Director of the IFC has been visiting Jamaica this week, and that is a very important thing. No Managing Director of the International Financial Corporation has ever visited Jamaica. And so Maktar Diop, who is the current Managing Director, he made a historic visit to Jamaica. He was here yesterday, and it marked the first time that any sitting Managing Director of IFC has been here. He met with the Prime Minister yesterday. He also signed an MOU with the government of Jamaica, and Minister Clark held several meetings with him, with the rest of the teams from the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service. And it was very much a landmark visit, as I said. And one of the things in his meeting with the Prime Minister that he noted was how many people around the world looked at Jamaica and looked at what Jamaica has been able to do in terms of the turnaround of the economy, and have been left utterly impressed with what has happened. He also noted that the international community understands that they have a role to play in spurring private sector development in Jamaica, in encouraging foreign direct investment to Jamaica, especially given how great the fundamentals are of our economy. And so he spoke quite a bit about what he saw from the outside looking in at Jamaica and Jamaica's turnaround and the turnaround of the Jamaican economy. He congratulated the Prime Minister and the team that was there with him, and he also spoke to the imperative to have many of the other entities like him focus significantly more on Jamaica because they saw tremendous opportunity there. In terms of both post-burial activities, a lot of work has been happening post-burial, and as I have said every week that we've had post-cab, that is a priority of the administration. We know a lot of individuals were adversely affected during hurricane burial, and the team has been working very, very hard to ensure that no one is left behind and everyone can get the kind of assistance that's required. Our Minister of Agriculture, Fisheries and Mining, the Honorable Floyd Green, has done tremendous work, and he has provided some updates on the recovery efforts. He's been focusing on farmers in the hardest hit parishes of St. Elizabeth, Clarendon, and Manchester. And again, this weekend, when I went to the market, the prices were very, very high. And so I know that we're dealing with very high prices because of the lack of many of the produce that we would buy. And so a lot of work is being done in order to aid our farmers so that they can get back on their feet and we can see better prices hopefully in the weeks to come. The Jamaica Bauxite Institute has allocated $25 million to aid 600 farmers, and we're also doing other grants. 180 greenhouse farmers have been assisted with a lot of equipment to build back their greenhouses. We also had the distribution of over 50,000 broiler chicks and 57,000 ready-to-lay pullets to farmers across all parishes, and the allocation of 1,000 bags of fertilizers to about 500 farmers. And that's just a bit of what has been done, and there's been work done for dairy farmers also to support them. And so up to a few weeks ago, over 7,000 farmers had received assorted vegetable seeds, and many of that was in the key affected areas. So a lot of work is going on in terms of assisting our farmers, and it's very important work that has to be done and has to be done very quickly. And I thank Minister Green for all the work that he's doing in that effort. The cash grants have been continuing. You would have seen the grants that we spoke about for those who had their homes affected. There's been significant distribution happening over the past 2 weeks. The NHT also announced the availability of its special home improvement loan, which is specifically designed to assist individuals whose homes were damaged during the passage of Hurricane Beryl. And note again that you are eligible to access funding of up to $1.5 million, which can be used for a variety of essential repairs and improvements. So if you had any damage and you are a contributor, you can go to the NHT and get assistance there. There are many other things that we could talk about, and I'm going to stop there because it is a very big morning, and I'm going to have our first minister come to speak to you, and that is the Honorable Darrell Vaz, Mr. 100 CNG buses himself.
There you go, here. Thank you very much. Good morning to everyone. Good morning. Colleague ministers, permanent secretaries, and of course, supporting staff here at OPM. So I take this opportunity to just give a quick update regarding transportation, public transportation matters, including the JUTC, the Montego Bay Metro, and the Rural School Bus Program. I can say that firsthand, I went to the Spanish Town bus park this morning at 6:30 and was very pleased to see that there was no build-up of commuters. I left there and I went to Naga Head and the same, and then I went downtown to South Parade and North Parade, and again the buses were moving and the commuters were moving, and that is a welcome sign. I did get feedback from commuters who have definitely seen an improvement, but as we know, the big test will be Monday when everybody is back out to school. But I can say with confidence, based on what I witnessed this morning, that we are definitely heading in the right direction. So the JUTC would have rolled out 250 buses across the Kingston metropolitan region on Monday, And of course, the commuters benefited from an additional 100 CNG new buses. So out of that 270 buses, we have approximately 125 CNG buses, and we have also 50 new Ankai buses which came into the island mid last year. So you're talking about 175 out of 270, which is a huge improvement in terms of the fleet, because prior to that, there were minimal new buses, and the majority of them were old buses as old as 12 to 16 years old that were not reliable. So we are definitely happy in relation to that. And of course, we all know the commitment is there by the government and approved by the Ministry of Finance to order another 100 CNG buses, which I'm hoping to go through the procurement processes and actually pay deposits on that for early next year, which would get the buses here between June and July again. And I think that with those 100 buses, plus the refurbished buses, which are 24 Hill Route, that are the buses that 8 of them have been refurbished already, with another 16 going into refurbishing to be completed by end of the year, early 25, along with 30 of the Volvo articulated buses that are going to be also refurbished. And therefore, I think at that time, the commuting public will definitely see the improvement and the efficiency. Happy to tell you that this morning, there was no wait on the locations that I went to that were more than 30 minutes, which is a huge improvement. And as again, it's because of the amount of buses. So for the places that I went this morning, they probably have twice the amount of buses that they had pre the 100 CNG. And that is what's making the big difference, because you have more buses. In one case, they had 20 buses, and now they have 40 buses serving the routes that they serve in the different areas. So the bottom line is that, as well as that, we have some improvements in relation to increase in buses deployment, and these routes are served by the Rockford, Spanish Town, and Portmore Depot. So 6 routes have been improved, and that would be Route 76, downtown to Barbican, 50A, Seaview to downtown via Marcus Garvey, 50B, Seaview to downtown via Spanish Town Road, 89 downtown to Vineyard Town via Eston Road, and 75A Express, which is 6 miles to Papine via Malines Road, and 78 Express downtown to August Town. For the Spanish Town Depot, we have 5 improved routes: 45 Express Great House Circle to UWI Backgate, 30 Price Right via Walton Park Road to downtown, 47 Price Right downtown via Lyndhurst Road, and 44 Great House to downtown, and 31 Price Right to downtown via Spanish Town Road. And last but not least, Portmore, 6 routes improved: 8AX from Nagahead via Halfway Tree to New Kingston, 17EX Greater Portmore via downtown to Crossroads, 16BX Greater Portmore via Boulevard to Manor Park, Route 7A Waterford to Halfway Tree, Route 7 Waterford to City, and 8AX Nagahead via Halfway Tree to New Kingston. We also have new sub-franchise of stage carriage routes and route taxi license. That's based on the no objection from the JUTC to the Transport Authority for the sub-franchising of 6 stage carriage routes and the issuing of route taxi licenses on 11 routes in the KTMR. The JUTC will open the application process for sub-franchise for the following 6 stage carriage routes starting October 1st. Shortwood via Halfway Tree to downtown Kingston. That will be for coaster buses: Barbican Halfway Tree to downtown Kingston, coaster; Doheny Park to Halfway Tree downtown, coaster; Whitehall to Halfway Tree via downtown Kingston, coaster; Havendale to Halfway Tree to downtown Kingston, coaster; Harborview Halfway Tree downtown Kingston, coaster. PM? Eh?
Yes, he's here.
Oh, I'm hearing that the the PM is here, and he has bigger things to talk about than me. So again, with the proliferation of hackney carriage operators providing unauthorized route-type services, the offer by the Transport Authority for the conversion of the license will ease the burdens faced by commuters who are often overcharged to compensate for hackney fare rates. With the JUTC offering no objection, the Transport Authority has started, and the next sensitization will take place on September 18th, 24 at the William Grant Park in downtown. Hackney carriage operators are invited to apply for conversion to a route taxi license starting now up to March 25 in the first instance. The operators who refuse to convert their licenses to route taxis and continue to operate illegally will face the law. The 11 routes being offered: downtown to East Queen Street, Norman Gardens for vehicles, downtown East Queen Street to Rennock Lodge, motor vehicles, downtown South Camp Road to Crossroads, motor vehicles, downtown South Camp Road, Vineyard Town, motor vehicles, downtown East Queen Street, Rollington Town, motor vehicles, downtown East Queen Street, Franklin Town, motor vehicles, Halfway Tree to Hagley Park Road to 3 miles, motor vehicles, Halfway Tree Road, Hope Road, Papine, motor vehicles, Halfway Tree, Red Hills Road, Chancery Street, motor vehicles, Halfway Tree, Washington Boulevard, Doheny Park, motor vehicles. Last but not least, Halfway Tree, Mountain View, Windward Road, motor vehicles. I wish to note that this type of solution-driven deliberations improve the provision of transport services to the public, come out of collaboration with the public transport providers and the Transport Authority. The Public Transport Operators Steering Committee, which was established in 2023 when I became minister, provides an avenue for sector players to give direct input to the shaping of the transport sector as they represent the concerns of both PPV operators and how to better serve commuters nationwide. I have Montego Bay Metro. You want me to hold on that? I'll be back.
He will definitely be back in a few minutes, and I ask for you to please stand for the arrival of the Prime Minister, the Most Honorable Andrew Holness.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning, ministers, members of the press, and Jamaicans here and abroad watching us, listening to us virtually. Yesterday, my administration marked the 4th anniversary of its victory at the polls on September 3rd, 2020. Our stated mission was to continue the journey of Jamaica's development towards a productive and prosperous economy and a just and peaceful society. There have been unexpected shocks along our journey, which have threatened to throw us off course. In fact, our journey as a nation has been characterized by frequent, multiple, and overlapping crises. The difference with this administration compared to others is our stellar performance in preparing, withstanding, and recovering quickly from shocks, whether it was the worst pandemic in 100 years, a supply chain shock, a global inflation shock, or a shock caused by a weather event such as Hurricane Beryl. We have managed to absorb these shocks largely from our own resources. This is something that we should, as a people, reflect on. We have managed to continue the downward trajectory of our national debt, increase our reserves, keep the dollar stable, bring down inflation, and most important, continue the capital investment in critical public infrastructure such as water, roads, security, hospitals. And you would have heard Minister Vaz gloating on his 100 buses and the 100 more to come and the 100 more to come. This has never happened in the independent history of Jamaica. The critics can crow all they want, they cannot assail this fact. What is a government to do other than to do this? At this juncture, we can say that Jamaica has institutionalized strong fiscal management to secure economic certainty, resilience, and stability. The next step in our journey is to focus on achieving high growth. While we have been achieving some levels of growth, we are not satisfied with the anemic levels of growth that we have been achieving. We are not satisfied that the level of growth that we have been achieving will be sufficient to deliver the increases in public revenues needed to drive investments in the things that matter to you, like your roads, your schools, social security and pensions. Further, low growth and low growth trajectories are easily wiped out by events such as Hurricane Beryl. As you would have seen, the pandemic would have affected our growth. No doubt, Beryl will also have an impact on our growth. In the coming months, as the government moves to structure itself for greater focus on growth, efficiency, peace, and productivity, which will deliver the benefits that you would like to see for yourself, as I have said. Benefits such as better wages, better education, better healthcare, better roads and water. We have planned certain changes to put the administration in a position to refocus and better deliver these well-deserved benefits to the people of Jamaica. These changes are occurring at all levels of the government. They are not only limited to the cabinet level, and you would have already seen some changes occurring. Against this backdrop, you would have been informed of Minister Clark's promotion to serve internationally in the IMF. Yesterday, we announced the resignation of Marsha Smith as Member of Parliament for North East St. Anne. Minister Matthew Samuda will replace Marsha in North East St. Anne as the party's candidate. And on Monday last, he tendered his resignation from the Senate and as a minister to make himself available. And at a later stage, I will announce a new appointment for Marsha, who has excellent skills and experience in industrial relations matters. Today, I am announcing that a by-election will be held in the constituency of North East St. Anne. The nomination day will be September 11th, 2024, and the election day will be September 30th, 2024. Thank you.
Mic on? Okay, we'll take one or two questions if there are any. And the first two hands that go up, you get the questions.
The last time I was here, wasn't able to take questions. I
Yes.
had an appointment before. I do have an appointment at 10, but I will take 1 or 2 questions.
Morning, Prime Minister. Morning,
Not in parts.
morning, Prime Minister. Morning, everybody. Arthur Hall from the Jamaica Observer. PM, there's another constituency which has a vacancy, Trelawney Southern. Notice you had announced a by-election for one that became vacant this week, and you haven't announced a by-election for one that has been vacant for a year now.
There is also a division that is vacant. And so, to put everyone at ease, within the restructuring that is taking place, all outstanding seats will be addressed.
Thank you, sir.
Morning, Prime Minister. Mahir Stewart from Nationwide News here. I want to ask you a question actually about some comments you made during your speech at Jamaica College. You referenced the placement tests for students going from primary and prep school to high school, and you were saying that it might be somewhat of an unfair or an outdated system.
Yeah, so look, we put together a commission to transform education. The way in which for decades we have distributed the best educational places in the country has created a social divide in the society. Education is not only for the bright. And once we get over that and we recognize that every school must perform to the highest standard, so it doesn't really matter which name brand school you go to, you're going to get the best quality education. When we talk about transformation in education, that is the core of it. It is a travesty in my mind that we place so much pressure on our young ones at an early age, where some may naturally exhibit the ability to grasp information quickly and regurgitate it. That is not a measure of intelligence or creativity. And we distribute our best educational spaces in that way to the detriment of the rest of the society. And we have been doing this for ages. If the government were to ever say, let me change that, and put the lowest performing students at the best places, there would be chaos. That wouldn't work. So the strategy of the government must focus on improving all schools. And that focus of improvement must start with the basics in education. We are piling on too much on our kids at an early age. We need to ensure that they can read, that they can function well in a numerate way, that they can articulate, and that they can interface with technology. Once we get them those core learning skills, the world of knowledge is open to them. And that is why we had focused so heavily on literacy. And in the transformation to come, you're going to see an emphasis on streamlining what our children learn at an early age. You're going to see an emphasis on the development of the skills necessary to drive our education system. As I've said, the administration for the last 5 or 6 years, we focused heavily on developing the economic horsepower to deliver the things that we are talking about now. And as you can see, we are delivering. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you.
Prime Minister, before you go, can I just ask you one question? I'm Sashana Small from Lino.
Moderator.
All right, I will allow this last question, PM.
Okay, thank you so much. Sashana Small from the Gleno. Prime Minister, can you explain to us why is it that St. Anne Northeastern has been singled out for a by-election, and why aren't by-elections being held in all the vacant constituencies?
Northeast St. Anne is not singled out. As I have said, we are at a stage where we are now ready to do all the by-elections, and all of them will be done. It is just that this one is going to be done first, but all the by-elections will be done.
Can you give us a time frame as to when that will happen?
As they come due, they will be done. And I would say within months. Within months.
All right, thank you.
Thank
Prime
you
Minister,
very much.
before you go, just
Thank you. He has to go. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, PM. And Minister Vaz, you are back up. And so this is really why you have to come to Postcab. You know, you have to listen to Postcab. You never know what's going to happen. I know the ads would have showed Minister Williams and Minister Vaz, and there would have been a lot of anticipation for both of you, but then we have the Prime Minister show up and gave a very good announcement. But Minister Vaz, over to you.
Thank you very much. I will be leaving here and going straight to Northeast St. Anne. So, the expansion of Montego Bay Metro. The Montego Bay Metro has not been forgotten, having received the much-needed improvement in stock with the addition of 12 new Ankai buses to boost service delivery to the people of Western Jamaica. The buses were redeployed from the JUTC's existing assets. This was an immediate response to recommendations that emanated from the proposal to revamp and expand the services of the Montego Bay Metro, along with the rapid assessment that was conducted on that entity. The good news is that the welcome addition to the fleet will see the bus service expanded to 4 new routes, namely Johns Hall, Betheltown, Savlamar, and Lucy. The Montego Bay Metro will continue to serve Cambridge, Macfield, Sandy Bay, Goodwill, and Falmouth. These 9 routes span the 4 western parishes of Trelawny, St. James, Hanover, and Westmoreland. The government remains committed to providing a safe, reliable, and economical transportation for our students, especially those in rural parts of the country who do not benefit from what obtains in the Kingston metropolitan region through the JUTC. With a new focus on the revamping of Montego Bay Metro and the expansion of its fleet, a total of 8 schools will now benefit directly from the rural bus service. Schools currently being served: Rossies High, Cambridge High, Anchovy, and Knockalver High. The new addition of 4 schools to be served includes Spot Valley High, William Knibb High, Hopewell High, and Irwin High. As we continue to expand the services in Western Jamaica, more schools will be served in the coming months with the incremental increase in Montego Bay Metro's bus fleet. I have made a commitment to purchase an additional 10 buses in the 24-25 fiscal year. These will be dedicated to serving the students and adults in the hilly interiors of St. James, Trelawny, Hanover, and Westmoreland, as well as to outfit the Montego Bay City Shuttle. So those are what you call the hill routes, which we have in Kingston, namely Stony Hill, Temple Hall, Border, and those areas, and in the East Rural, St. Andrew, Garden Town, Mavis Bank, and Irish Town, and those areas. So this will complement getting the people out of the hill routes into Montego Bay, as we do in Kingston into Halfway Tree. So that brings me to the rural student transportation system. As I said, remains a priority for this government. The program requires substantial intervention from the government, and so far, in discussions with the Ministry of Education and Youth for this well-needed initiative, they are working with us closely. We have jointly identified path allocations to the Ministry of Education for school transport, which would serve to partially finance this program. And basically, the numbers are not finalized yet, but based on the numbers that I got from my PS Troop yesterday, it seems to be about between $350 and $400 million that are allocated and earmarked for schools to help students on the PATH program. So what we have to do is to try and use that even to start a pilot project, which I had committed to do by January, and then work through the cabinet submission with the Ministry of Finance to get the necessary subventions to be able to roll it out. It is definitively a priority, as we know what took place just on the first day of school on Monday in terms of traffic accidents and the involvement of young school children. Unfortunately, one youngster died in the car crash on Monday, and of course, we remember just what happened a few months ago in Buff Bay, Portland, where we lost lives, and some of those kids are still not able to function because they are so badly injured. So I just want to reiterate that it's not as simple as ABC, because the bottom line is that in order to get a viable rural transportation system for the students, it means that you have to pay fares or pay transport operators a going rate, which will require substantial intervention, financial intervention from the government and the Ministry of Finance. So I commit to continue to work on that and to say that at least you can see the direction that we are going in relation to what I mentioned for Montego Bay Metro, because many of those schools that were not on, those students would have to take public transportation, which is the usual taxis, etc. So it's a start, but a lot more to be done, and I will keep the country. I'm hoping to make a statement in Parliament when Parliament reopens to be able to kind of give the concept of what it is we are planning to do and how we are planning to roll it out. But it will be a public-private partnership. The government is not going to invest in assets. We're going to use assets that are in the public transportation under certain guidelines. Thank you very much. I don't know if there's any questions.
Are there any questions? All right. Okay. Nationwide. And we have another one at the back, too. So we have 2 questions.
Right. All right. Wonderful. Good morning, Minister. Mahiri Stewart here from Nationwide News. 2 questions. One, in light of the tragic accident that claimed the life of Trayvon Sanchez in Manchester, I know for a fact that I spoke to Dr. Lucian Jones just the day before, and I was asking him what message he had for the country in terms of road safety leading up into back to school, and he said that making sure children specifically knew the rules of the road was something important as it regards crossing, knowing the lights and all of that stuff. What I want to ask is, in light of this accident, do you think there is need for better public education where that is concerned, or do you think it's a case where there's nothing new to really tell Jamaicans where road safety is concerned?
So as I would have indicated before, there is definitely need for a sustained public education campaign for road safety. The issue that we have is that we have everything else except the dedicated funds to make this happen, because what you do is, or the funds that are available are not sufficient to have a properly sustained program. So as I indicated before, and I'm happy you asked the question because I can answer it based on a meeting I had yesterday, is that currently the traffic fines are only allocated to the Ministry of Justice, the Ministry of National Security, and the Consolidated Fund. The Ministry of Transport get none of it, and the allocation that the ministry gets for public education can do 1 month at maximum. So at the last Road Safety Council meeting, I made the presentation, and it was accepted by the chairman, who is the Prime Minister, that a percentage of those funds, which is substantial, the last figure that I got was over $2 billion up to now, not the whole year. So let us round off a figure of $3 billion. And the Ministry of Transport gets a percentage, which so far they offered 10%, which I flatly refused, and I'm going for 20 to 25%. That money would be a dedicated fund to be able to get the professionals from wherever in the world to come and help us to look at what our challenges are, our unique challenges as a country, and the habits that we have, driving habits, etc., and have a sustained program which will help to educate in schools at all levels, help to do the retraining of the drivers, recertification of the drivers, and most importantly, to me, to assist with the resources required for the police and other agencies to be able to spend specific to public transportation. Bus stops, public education, schools, getting people to go into the schools and do. So if you say 20%, that would be $600 million that the Ministry of Transport would have as a dedicated fund. And I can tell you, if I get half of that, you would see a change in months based on the fact that we would have a sustained approach, the billboards all over the place, everything, and do it right and get the results. We're 13% down now, year over year. But that's still too high in terms of the amount of fatalities and unnecessary fatalities. So it has to be holistic, and I'm hoping that we get a cabinet submission within the next 4 weeks to cabinet to approve the allocation, and then from there get the money start coming in. So by next year, financial year, we will have a full program rolled out.
We have one other question at the back for you, and then we have to move
Yeah.
to the Minister of Education.
Alicia Williams, Television Jamaica. Minister, in 2017, there were JUTC buses in Maypen. It ended during the pandemic. Can you say when you will be restarting that?
No, second.
Maypen, JUTC buses in Maypen.
Yes.
Can you say when that will be restarted, or if you're having any discussion to restart?
So there is a plan to roll out further. It requires a cabinet decision or cabinet approval, because what I want basically is to get approval from cabinet to amend the current regulations for JUTC to allow them to go anywhere across Jamaica. But in terms of your specific question, those routes where infrastructure has improved, Yallas, Maypen, Williamsfield, those are no-brainers in terms of extending the current service, and it's just a matter of being able to not spread ourselves too thin with the new buses where we're trying too many routes and not giving the service on the routes. So it is a priority, and as I said before, we'll see if we can start to even phase it in this set of 100 buses, but definitely for the next 100 buses, we'll be looking not only to go to those areas, but to start going across Jamaica.
And finally, Minister, in terms of St. Thomas, with the new leg of the highway, is the government also considering having JUTC buses in the parish?
100%.
All right, thank you, Minister. We now have what do I call you? Minister back to school. Here, Minister Favour Williams is here to talk about our efforts, and the efforts have been reaping great success, Minister, and you will note there are also some show and tell items here in terms of ebooks. A lot of people have been asking about that, and so she has a lot to get through this morning. Thank you for staying.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. Sorry, the microphone. All right. Well, allow me to begin by acknowledging my colleague ministers, Senator the Honorable Dana Morris Dixon, and I just note that the Honorable Darrell Vaz stepped out, but let me acknowledge him as well. Let me as well acknowledge the hard-working and diligent team from the Ministry of Education and Youth, including our Permanent Secretary, Dr. Kassan Troop, our Chief Education Officer, Acting, Ms. Terry-Ann Thomas Gale, and the members from the Technical Services, Media Services, Core Curriculum, Special Education, and the National Education Trust. I want to as well acknowledge all our board chairpersons, our principals and administrators, teachers, school staff, and everyone who've hit the ground running for September morning. Our students and their families across the education sector, members of the media, Jamaicans everywhere, good morning again. I want to begin by saying that it is with great sadness that I extend condolences to the family and friends of Trayvon Sanchez, grade 6 student at Christiana Lee Primary School. As you may know by now, Trayvon lost his life on the first day of school while on the way to school in a collision involving the motor vehicle that he was traveling in, driven by his mother, a member of the JCF. And as far as we know, his mother remains in critical condition in hospital. So I consider this to be the worst news possible on the first day of school. My heart hurts for Trevon's family and his friends. So I take this opportunity to reiterate the words of my colleague minister, Darrell Vaz, and encourage all who travel on our roads to exercise caution. I will go a step further to say that we are our brother's keeper. So drive not only for yourself, but others, and remember our children at all times. So I now move on to the updates on the much anticipated September morning when our schools reopened. In the last few days, I've been supported by colleague ministers and the Prime Minister himself, to whom I'm very grateful. We had excellent visits with some of our schools, and as we expected, students and parents came back with much anticipation for a successful year. Let me say that prioritizing back to school is a strong signal that this administration is committed to education. So I'm pleased to report that the academic year 2024 to 2025 officially started on Monday, September 2nd, 2024. As of yesterday, of the 1,009 public schools, which are primary and high schools, only 2 reported not having students back yet in the face-to-face or in the virtual environment, but they expect to have full engagement by Monday, September 9. There are 4 primary schools where there is some limited engagement in the virtual space. They're not back in the face-to-face yet. They are just awaiting the final completion of work that needs to be done, but they too are expected to also be back by Monday, September 9. Across the sector, we saw the staggered approach among our high schools, as is normal, meaning selected year groups are being brought back in a phased basis, except for Monroe, whose principal had announced a week ago that they would be back in the face-to-face environment beginning on September 9. However, in the meantime, Monroe is doing some amount of student engagement in the virtual space. I want to thank the dedicated staff of the Ministry of Education and Youth across the length and breadth of the education system, our building officers, the National Education Trust, and all our stakeholders who had to be on the ground to help advance the construction work. As you know, Hurricane Beryl damaged 362 of our schools' infrastructure, but not our resolve. We have built back better. So I'm sure if you go to inspect, you'll see more hurricane straps in our schools. You'll see better quality roofing material, better quality material in terms of resistance to termites. So a lot has been done to help to increase the resilience of our schools. You will remember that Priority 1 listing total 107 schools, and these were categorized as severely damaged. Again, this meant that those 107 schools would need work to take place for them to be able to reopen. Priority 2 schools total 139. These are moderately damaged schools that require repair work. But as we indicated all along, this work that's required would be done during school operations, and it's work that was assessed to not affect school reopening. And then there were schools with minor damage. They too need to be taken care of, and we will be doing those during the school year. I must acknowledge the hard work of the contractors who worked long hours, overtime, on weekends to help us get things back together again. During the process, we did encounter some severe weather. For example, I know last week there was quite a bit of rain in Portland that hampered the work there for 2 of our schools there. But notwithstanding, I want to note the work that has been done so far and to say that it is commendable, and I extend gratitude to all who have worked effortlessly in this regard. Let me note that being able to come back to school after such devastation of the system is transformation in action. We were responsible, we were agile, we were focused, we were knowledgeable about what to do, and we executed in a coordinated manner. That is what we mean when we say education is trending. It means taking bold, deliberate steps on behalf of our stakeholders, our students, teachers, administrators, parents, and others. It is at this juncture that I want to make a connection or a link between the massive infrastructure repairs we've been able to do for the badly damaged schools and make that link to the sound macroeconomic policies of this government. We could not have done what we did without budget support from central government. The budget support in a time of disaster could not have happened were it not for adherence to the sound macroeconomic policies over the years and the implementation of those policies that have allowed us to build disaster resilience into our national budgets. Some time ago, Minister Clark highlighted that Jamaica's approach to disaster management is no longer an after-the-fact approach, where governments of the past could only scramble after a disaster to cobble together the resources that would be needed to restore the sector or the country to normalcy. And so when the finance minister said that over the years, this government has systematically built different layers of financial instruments designed to deliver fiscal resources for the emergency costs, the restoration of our schools at a cost of billions of dollars is a very visible manifestation of good macroeconomic policies working in a tangible and real way on the ground for the people of Jamaica. You may recall that on June 4th of this year, we as legislators passed the law that brought into effect the National Natural Disaster Fund, which is a fund to which government is mandated to save each year up to $1 billion in the first year, and thereafter at least $400 million. At the time Minister Clark spoke in Parliament in July, he noted that Jamaica's contingency fund and the Natural Disaster Fund totaled $4.5 billion. He spoke to the other layers of resilience, the $40 billion credit contingency claim with the International Development Bank, the risk insurance with the Caribbean Catastrophe Risk Insurance Facility, the catastrophe bond, or he fondly calls it the CAT bond, an instrument that would give a payout depending on how catastrophic is the situation. My point in highlighting these is that these financial instruments are all policy decisions. So I unabashedly say again, when you have good, sound macroeconomic policies that deliver for the people of Jamaica, such as the education sector, being able to pick itself up in record time so our children could make their way back to school on September 2nd We must appreciate that. And again, I want to publicly thank Minister Dr. Nigel Clark for his doggedness in getting resilience built into our national budgets so that we in education did not have to scramble or flap around. We were able to set about doing the work so we could stand here today in front of the Jamaican people to say we are confident about the new school year. We're grateful for all who have worked to make this happen, but most of all, we recognize that none of this would be possible were it not for, and I'll say again, good, sound, strong macroeconomic policies that were implemented prior to the Hurricane Beryl disaster. And those macroeconomic policies have delivered on behalf of our students, our teachers, our administrators, and the people of Jamaica as a whole. Last week, I shared that we were in the process of getting ready for back to school. And I will now share some of that. So starting with our teachers, of course, they are our human capacity. They remain our most valuable resource. Teachers remain the backbone of our education sector. We saw, as we looked across the various regions, very high percentage of teachers out the first day, despite there only being a staggered approach to schools coming back. So we are aware of the many challenges that our teachers face in the classrooms, and we continue to be committed to addressing these. So I want to say a big thank you on behalf of us to all our teachers across Jamaica, and we look forward to continue working with you to ensure that we have a great school year. We also want to welcome new teachers who've come in. We don't know those numbers yet, but when we look at how many came into the system last year, 856 would have entered the sector upon graduation from our teachers' colleges. And I do look forward as well to welcoming those new teachers into the system. We're thankful for the collaborations. The Ministry of Finance and the Public Service committed last year to 1,200 STEM scholarships through the Micro-University College, valued at $2.5 billion over 5 years, in an effort to produce STEM teachers to meet our needs. There's also a commitment to broaden these scholarships through other teacher education institutions. We look forward to seeing those STEM teachers in our system as new hires in just a few more years. I want to say as well to remind those teachers who graduated and are looking for jobs in our school system, to remind them about the MOUI job portal. This was launched a year ago with the hope of connecting schools with teachers to just make the process easier for teachers to connect to schools, schools to connect to teachers. I can tell you during the course of last year, I got several phone calls, several emails from teachers who says, you know, I've sent out my resume to schools, I haven't heard back, I'm available. And so we want to call attention again to this job portal. It is our way of making it easier for teachers to meet up with the schools, because as you know, recruiting takes place at the school level, not at central ministry. It is the boards, the principals who get together and decide, you know, they will go through the process, the interview process, make the decision about recruitment. And so I want to say as well, as we welcome our new teachers and personnel into our schools, we're taking the necessary steps to ensure speedy processing and onboarding. As you can see, onboarding requires the submission of documentation, which, when tardy, can delay salaries. I'm pleased to note that last year, in the last school year, we worked assiduously, thank you, PS and the team, and we worked overtime to ensure our new teachers and teachers in new positions were remunerated on time, and this year we have the same commitment, but just reminding all that documents must be submitted to the principals, through the board chairs to the regions in the quickest possible time. In terms of how we're organizing, or we've organized, obviously, at this time of the year, schools do have to have some new furniture in them because old ones might have fallen apart. Since August, we have delivered 10,878 pieces of furniture, desks and chairs, and that distribution continues. Well, no, it does. Since August, we did 10,878, and I think to date, it's more like 19,878, sorry about that number. And we continue to respond. In the event there was in a school that had indicated earlier on, but with burial, they might have seen where they need new furniture. We're responding to those as well. In terms of educational material, textbooks in particular, we know that teaching and learning require these tools. We continue to take steps to increase our learning resources to our students. In a bulletin sent from the ministry on August 19th, there was specific information regarding the approved educational resources for the 2024-2025 academic year. So, for example, we want parents to know that students in grades 1 to 3, for those students, the ministry provides math workbooks. For those in grades 4 to 6, the ministry provides math, language arts, science, and social studies. These books stay in the system for approximately 3 years and should not be purchased by the parents. So asking parents to pay attention, ask questions of the teachers. The bulletin went out, and I believe that it contained extensive information. I want to reiterate again this year that e-resources are available at no additional cost to students at both the primary and secondary level. Grade 4 students will continue to have fully funded access to the Learning Hub online platform. Grade 6 students will have fully funded access to the Cheetah per practice books available on the Book Fusion platforms. And grades 1 to 3 students will have full access to the Jamaica Learning Passport. I know that there will be some knowledge required for students and teachers and parents, and we have phone numbers that are available for persons to call to find out how they access these ebooks. We are also ensuring that we talk about empowerment in the system, and when we talk about that, we refer to the process of giving individuals or groups the confidence to make decisions, to influence change. We understand the expertise, skills, and talent that our stakeholders possess, and want everyone to be part of the process and to play a large role in this. So at the school level, our board should already know by now that they have the power to make early recruitment decisions, to engage teachers on approved vacation leave, to encourage part-time teachers, pre-trained graduate teachers, final year student teachers in recognized teacher training programs, to enact flexible scheduling, to encourage administrators, and I know that our team, through the Chief Education Officer, will be out there looking at helping schools with their timetable. You heard Prime Minister talked early on about just focusing on reading, writing, mathematics, just focusing on those subjects in the early years to get that foundation for those children as they move through the system. We know that our stakeholders' voices matter. We've seen WhatsApp messages, emails, and so on, and we want to acknowledge that. We have published a number of numbers for persons to access in the event that they need to reach us. For our students, we want you to know that you have voices that are important. We want you to become vested stakeholders. You're full of ideas. You are the innovators, and you represent hope, not just for yourselves, but for generations to come. And we invite you, we call on you to be a part of the solution. So I know for parents across Jamaica, the cost of transportation remains heavy, and I am extremely pleased to be working with the Ministry of Transport through the Ministry of Science, Energy, Technology, and Transport. You heard Minister Vaz talk about the efforts here in the corporate area to add more buses. That benefits our students, all across where these buses go, because we have schools. Just when we went to Halfway Tree on Monday morning, we took a bus up Old Hope Road. There are lots of schools along that stretch. And in the old system, to have those students waiting an hour and a half, you can see how that would impact their school day and just their whole mindset when they get to school. Now, it's a lot easier. More buses, they come, you get there faster. And I'm also thrilled about the expansion of the bus system in Montego Bay as well. That's neat. But let me, before I close, just touch on special needs. This area can be very daunting and scary to families with a variety of needs. The team and I met with special education experts locally and internationally over the last few months, and I want to say we've taken the time to just add to our understanding of these realities. Firstly, I want to note that there has been an increase in the number of students with special needs who've been placed in private institutions for special needs students. We have an additional 195 students enrolled in private schools who will be supported by the ministry. This brings the total number of students in private institutions for special needs to about 460 for the upcoming school year. Of note, there are public spaces in our public schools available that cater to specific challenges and disabilities, but in the unlikely event that the needs are greater, we place them in one of 17 private schools with which we have established partnerships. Secondly, there's an increase in the number of shadows, but we don't call them shadows anymore. Shadows are those persons who would be with your child to, from school, and within school. So the new name for shadows is Special Education Needs Assistants. SENAs. I hope, I'm sure we'll become used to that word, and they are in our schools. We have 338 new SENAs, bringing the total across all regions to 759. We've also been able to top up the salaries a bit. Centers were getting about $40,000. We moved that to $60,000. Yes, we're not bowling it out of the park, but it's a move in the right direction. We have also done some alignment of courses with heart so that our centers will be able to receive certification with a level 1, 2, or 3 in the very near future. And that would allow our centers access to education in schools and so on. And we believe that's a good benefit. And as I wind down, I have to touch on the fees. Okay, all right. There are a number of things. I just want to touch on fees that schools are charging to parents, to remind our schools that school fee is not mandatory. Yes, we encourage our parents to contribute as they can. No student should be denied access to their fundamental human rights because they cannot pay the fee that some schools dictate for them to pay. No child should be barred from school for non-payment of fees. We understand that there are some fees for items that you have to purchase, of course, yes. But for the other part of it, the government has clearly articulated that it is non-mandatory. You will, during the school year, you will see the nutrition policy in its final form. You will also see the dress and grooming policy as well in its final form. So let me stop here and to say we are delighted at the smooth start of the new school year, just given the damage from Hurricane Beryl only in the last 8 weeks. And we were able to come together and ensure, along with all our stakeholders, ensure that on September 2nd, the traditional day of back to school, we were up and ready for the school year. Thank you, ladies and
All right, thank you, Minister. I'm going to have to do really quick questions. I know I've kept you longer than usual, but it's good morning. There's a lot of work going on in government, and so we have a lot of things to say and to tell. And we do have ODPEM and Met Office to give you some very important advisories. So let's do these as quickly as we can. Sure, go ahead. Go ahead, Naomi, with you.
Kalisha Williams again from Television Jamaica. Minister, just in regards to Cherry Tree Lane in Clarendon, can you say or provide any update in terms of the schools there, in terms of turnout, or whether or not there have been any intervention programs? I know it's still early days in terms of since the beginning of school for students who were directly impacted by the shooting in Cherry Tree Lane.
Oh, all right. In any situation in which one of our students is involved, whether it be an accident, motor vehicle accident, drowning, whatever the situation, we are always ready, and we go out as a guidance and counseling unit at the ministry, and we are there on day one to hold hands, to pray, to console friends and families in the community. That's a staple in the education system.
Thank you, Minister. Final question then in this segment.
Good morning, Good morning, Minister Shoshana Small from the Gleaner. Minister, you mentioned Monroe College as one of the schools that didn't open, on Monday. But which other schools did not resume on the 2nd, and when are they scheduled to reopen?
All of the schools that are not back fully in the face-to-face environment, those that are using a blend of, let's just say next Monday. The schools that are not ready, because where the construction is for those schools, it's at a point where they will be ready for September 2nd.
Can you say which schools?
Monroe in particular, they had indicated more than a week ago that they would push back school to September 9, but they are using some online facilities as well for their students.
Can you say the other schools?
Right. Well, that's not back. Happy Grove is in Portland. Is not back yet. But I know the construction work is going full blast there, and they've indicated Monday they'll be back.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Minister. I know that was a lot of work to get the schools back up, but they are back, and congratulations to the Ministry of Education team for all of your hard work. And even on Monroe, the question that just came from the Gleaner on Monroe, I remember right after Hurricane Beryl, some of the Monrovians, what do they call their old boys association, but they were very worried. They said they can't see the school opening back before next year based on how much damage there was. And for the minister to be able to say that on September 9, Monroe will be open, that is an achievement in and of itself. And we have to celebrate all of the people who've worked so hard on this, led by Minister Williams, to get our schools open in record time. A lot of them are really badly damaged. And the work was done, and they've put in place the contingencies, and that is something for Jamaica to celebrate. All right, so there's obviously some weather events we need to speak about very quickly, and we ask the members of the media to also share the information. I will invite our head of our Met Service and also our rep from ODPEM to come to the podium. I'll have both of you come at the same time. I'll give you each 2 minutes to tell us what we need to look out for. We'll start with Met Office, and then we'll also move on to ODPEM, and we have Michelle Edwards here, and of course, Evan Thompson. You can use my mic.
Thank you very much, Minister Morris Dixon, and good morning to everyone, Minister, Permanent Secretary, all distinguished persons, media, of course, and the Jamaican people who are in attendance online. Good morning. The Meteorological Service issued a news release on the 2nd of September, which was on Monday, indicating that there was a strong tropical wave that was moving into the vicinity of the Central Caribbean and that it would impact Jamaica. Today is the day that we would have expected to experience much of the effects of this tropical wave. As it continues to move westward, there was a 40% chance of it developing further into a tropical depression or tropical storm. However, over the past 24 hours, that was reduced somewhat. The projection is now there's a 30% chance of that kind of development as it moves into the Western Caribbean, moving towards Central America. So that is what is projected at this time. Tropical wave is not a point, it's not a center like a storm or a hurricane, but it is an axis that moves across. Now that axis is currently in place to move across Jamaica. And so we are expecting that we will see some more development from this system. Right now, not much activity is being experienced so far. However, and I should point out that the projections coming from the computer models have indicated a weakening of the system over the past few hours, past 12 to 24 hours, and we expect that there is some weakening that is taking place that will cause it not to have as dramatic an impact over Jamaica as was previously predicted. However, we do expect that there will be an increase in rainfall and thunderstorm activity going through the afternoon. The Jamaica Weather app will tell you that. That's from the Meteorological Service. And the Met Service's news releases will also be indicating that as we go forward. Currently, we are not issuing a flash flood watch for the island or warning because the potential for flash flooding has been decreased somewhat. But we are on alert, of course, watching to see how the system develops. And if there is the potential for flooding as we go through today, as the system affects us today and tomorrow, we are expecting that we will move to some kind of flash flood warning or watch, as the case may be. So that basically is my 2 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning, ministers, PSs, media. Okay. All right, so the ODPEM, as we continue to recover from the impacts of Hurricane Beryl, especially those parishes that were significantly affected, St. Elizabeth, Manchester, and Clarendon, it is crucial that we remain vigilant and prepared for the challenges that may arise from this tropical wave. Although we are hearing that, you know, the chances for development has significantly weakened, the combination of saturated ground conditions and the anticipated rainfall will create the environment for flooding. And many of our communities are still trying to restore normalcy to their lives with the aftermath of the hurricane, which has left, infrastructure weakened and our vulnerability exposed. Now, the situation heightens the risk for residents in affected areas, particularly those living near rivers, flood-prone areas, and even hillsides. So in areas that were impacted by Hurricane Beryl, residents are still exposed to the impacts associated with the recent storm. So it is also important to note that since the passage of Hurricane Beryl, we have had at least 3 felt earthquakes and rain events, which days ago, washed away motor vehicles in St. James. So this underscores the realities that we live in a multi-hazard environment and need to always be prepared. So to all Jamaicans, we urge you to take the advisories issued by the Meteorological Service of Jamaica seriously, because one severe weather system, can cause serious damage to our properties and can cause losses of life and our livelihoods. So we are still 3 months till the end of the Atlantic hurricane season. So we urge all citizens to stay alert and listen to the advisories from the Meteorological Service and the ODPEM, and to take the necessary precautions to preserve life, property as necessary. Now, some of the precautions that we want you to observe, to stay informed of your local weather updates, the information from the Met Office, from your local authorities, to avoid low-lying areas, refrain from traveling through flooded roadways, gullies, and river courses. These conditions can change rapidly, and so we want persons to be very careful. We want you to, of course, have some supplies, some essential supplies, including food and water, medication, if necessary, and, of course, documents that you deem important. Now, our emergency responders and our various teams are on high alert and ready to assist those in need. And we are coordinating closely with our local agencies to ensure that resources are allocated effectively and that our communities receive the support they require. So we understand that I'm wrapping up now. So in closing, we understand that the impacts of the previous hurricane are still fresh in our minds, and many of us, we are committed to providing the necessary assistance to help our residents navigate these challenges. So your safety is our top priority, and we encourage everyone to remain cautious and proactive during this time. Thank you.
One second, do you have any questions for them? We're good? I know we've gone way over time today. Thank you to our Met Office team and our ODPEM team for giving us more information. We are a praying country, and we seem to have been praying away this system also, and we just need to continue to pray. As they said, we have 3 more months of the hurricane season, and they also noted that earthquakes can happen at any point. And so we continue to pray, but while we pray, we also prepare. And that's what the message was this morning, to always be on alert. I'm going to end it here this morning. It's been a jam-packed post-cabinet press briefing. We'll be here again next week, Wednesday, the same time, 9 a.m., for another post-cabinet press briefing. God bless you all, and see you next week.